might recognize this statue. Does anybody know the name of it? You were close. What was it? Thinking. Close. Very close. Yes, Night at the Museum. He was definitely in that. He is the thinker. And not a lot of people know this, but the guy who created the thinker created 7 of them. Just in case we have anybody who's just joined us, this is actually a private tour, so if you're in the process of registering for classes, just FYI. He is the thinker, and it's a statue of Dante sitting at the gates of hell, because Dante's Inferno is one of the stories that we read here in Colombia. Does anybody know the story of Dante's Inferno? It just got made into a video game. Okay, well, I will tell you. So in Dante's Inferno, it's based off all the old Greek stories, and it's an Italian epic poem, and we read it in English. And basically what happens is it starts off with Dante being chased through a forest, and he meets a she-wolf and a leopard, and etc., etc. And so that's one reason why he's here. The other reason is because he's a French statue, and this is La Maison Française. This is home to our French Cultural Society, and it's actually the oldest building on the campus. Our school was founded in 1754, so about 150 years before we moved here, because we had to close down because of the American Revolution, and half the school fled to Canada, and they founded King's College in Halifax, Nova Scotia, but half the school stayed here. And what we were, King's College, and you can see the King's Crown up there, became Columbia University, which sounds very more American, because Columbus, you think of Christopher Columbus and Columbia, etc. And so we moved to this campus in 1896, but this was here already, because this whole campus was a mental institution.
No, we don't.
So that he can ride him, because he wants to ride a winged horse. But it's a very famous metaphor for the triumph of the intellect over nature. And he represents the intellect, so our reasoning brain, and the horse represents our, animal spirit. So, for example, the example I always use is the horse represents the part of us that goes, I see a lot of cookies, I want to eat all of those cookies. And the man represents the part of our brain that goes, you should really only have one so that you can continue to have cookies for a few days. And you should stop yourself. So whatever or everything you see on TV is filtered through somebody else's opinion, which is called bias. And one of the things that's very important to us at Columbia is being able to see first-hand things or hear things without bias, straight from the person's mouth. So we had a big jumbotron up, and everybody got to hear it firsthand, and then they could decide for themselves whether they disagreed or agreed with what was being said. And there were protests and counter-protests, and it was very exciting. But the basic fact of this was that we got an unbiased first-hand look at things, which is something that we like here and something that we get a lot. So you get a lot of different world leaders, different people that are promoting their sort of ideas and theories. I got to hear, has anybody seen The Day After Tomorrow? Okay, well, it's a pretty cool movie. New York gets flooded, the whole involved in a project finding a way to get mosquitoes to transmit the vaccine for malaria rather than malaria, which is really important. So doing really cool stuff like that, helping to save the world, etc. And back here is computer science and engineering, and that's the start of all our engineering buildings, and they're really cool people, and they get all sorts of internships. Scholars Line, and it's actually only about 5 years old. It was pre-aged to look very old, just like the rest of the school. And so that's our gym over there. Unfortunately, we can't go in today because they're doing all sorts of, it's underground. They're doing all sorts of construction there, but we have a full-size Olympic-sized swimming pool, an indoor running track, all sorts of dance and a martial arts studio into public safety, and I got it the next day. So people are really nice here, so that's really good. So that's why it looks like it, because we have these call boxes. So if anybody doesn't feel safe anytime on campus, they can just pick up their phone and call public safety, and they'll come and walk them around. But everybody feels pretty safe on campus, and pretty much off campus too. This is one of the safest neighborhoods in New York City, and New York City is the safest city in the United States. So it's very safe here. Yeah, low is kind of great.
So walking at night.
walking in the night is very safe. The things you don't want to do are like go into the parks or places where it's deserted because you're just. Why is it famous? Well, we are the 5th oldest school in the country. We're one of the top 5 schools in the country, according to the school, of course. We have a lot of very famous people that have gone here or who teach here. And we also are in all sorts of movies. For example, this is the Ghostbusters library. Really? Yeah. And you might remember those steps from Hitch and Spider-Man. Ferris Bueller also. Yeah. So how many breaks do we get? Like in a day or in a year? In a day? It depends what your classes are like. Usually you have 3 classes, and